The madam is in charge.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Returning officers will now take the responsibility.
Where the fuck did that come from?
Okay, so I wanted to maybe just start off by just quickly saying that I think that most of the stuff that we covered in our previous video was pretty preliminary. Like it was very much like touch and go. Like we didn't really know if there was going to be a government that was going to be formed. We didn't know how it was going to look. We could only really speculate. And one of the things we said in very rudimentary terms is we weren't really sure if there was going to be a soft coalition or like a full-blown coalition. And with a bit more context in mind, it looks like it is pretty much a full-on coalition.
A
full-blown coalition where the DA are not just taking a backseat and saying we'll vote with you here and there, but actually going into government with the ANC, forming the GNU or being part of the GNU, which is the proposed government of national unity. And on Friday, they went to Parliament. And despite so many people thinking it was going to be a complete shit show, despite all the chaos and all the worry that this was going to fumble, somehow the ANC and their biggest opposition were able to come together and form a government and elect a speaker, a deputy speaker, and the president. So that was quite a feat, and watching it unfold was quite crazy.
Yeah, you
very crazy.
You were watching it live, weren't you?
Yes, I was. No, I was watching it going on live, and I was. There were a few moments that I thought were quite crazy, but nothing beyond the pale. Like it was actually, and when I say crazy, I mean what do we expect from the EFF coming in? And comparatively,
we expect them to make a ruckus, throw their toys out the cot, all that good stuff. Which
they did to some degree.
Did they? I mean, from the few clips I've seen, they seem to be very cordial.
I think what we need to watch. My favorite part of the whole of the assembly was when the speaker, after she was elected, she was like, "Cool guys, order everybody, honorable members," and a little joke. And then she was like, "Right, the next thing that we need to proceed with is the election of the deputy speaker." And I think just watch that link. Let's watch that link that I sent you earlier, where it starts with that, because this is where all the, you tell me if you could spot what's causing the drama.
The report on the results of...
There we go.
I'll bring that up there.
That's the first link, right?
Okay, so who we're listening to now is Toko Didiza, who is the ANC Speaker of the House. And right now she's looking for her deputy speaker.
There will now be an opportunity for nomination of candidates for the election as deputy speaker of the National Assembly.
Speaker.
Honorable Member Shibambo.
No, thank you very much.
Here he comes.
Best wishes on your election as a Speaker of the National Assembly. So, I stand myself as Nico Floyd Shibambo to nominate Honorable Vuyile Tuzungula as the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly.
They're nominating someone from a joke party. Okay, they're not even nominating one of their own.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that nomination. Is there a seconder to the nomination?
Seconder being a secondary.
An honorable member at the back.
Speaker, from UAT. The seconder kgetho ya Vuyile Tuzungula.
Thank you very much.
He's seconding it.
So he's seconding the
nomination,
whether the nominee accepts the nomination.
Thank you, Speaker. Dingu Vuyile Tuzungula, udosini, unoyila, umqokhana. Into ngathi inkosi emntwini kuba inkosi ngokwayo. Ndiyasamkela isiphakamiso. Thank you.
He's saying he accepts the nomination.
Thank you very much. Can the returning officer indicate to me whether the form has been handed over? The nomination form of Honorable Zungula?
So this is the joke candidate, right?
Yeah.
So there you go, do the whole process.
Thank you very much. We have received the form of nomination of Honorable Zungula. It has been signed accordingly by both the one who nominates and the seconder, as well as the nominee himself. I would like to confirm with Honorable Zungula whether the signature on the form is the one that he acknowledged it's his.
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much, Honorable Zungula. Are there any nominations? Honorable Karua?
Here comes
Thank
a
you very much,
serious
Speaker,
contender.
and a huge congratulations on your election. I would like to, as Siviwe Gwachube from the Democratic Alliance, nominate Dr. Annelie Lotriet for the position of the Deputy Speaker, please.
There's a doctor in the house.
Doctor in the
Doctor in the house.
Is there any seconder for the nomination? Honorable Member?
Speaker, I, Desiree van der Walt of the DA, second the proposer for Dr. Annelie Lotriet as the Deputy Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. May I ask whether Honorable Lotriet, as a nominee, as nominated, accepts the nomination?
Madam Speaker, I, Annelie Lotriet, accept the nomination.
So she's, as a proponent of
May
the
I
DA, is
check
gonna
with the
become
returning officer whether the form has been received?
Yeah. Okay.
Secretary Speaker of the House.
Okay, now slow it down. Slow it down to normal speed. This is where shit gets interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Right, now, in any other parliamentary sitting, you'd expect the majority party to nominate their
very
own
much.
speaker, right?
The form has been received.
Okay.
It duly
So that-
complies.
Yeah.
The
just watch.
nominee and the one who seconded, as well as the one who has been nominated, Honorable Lotre, has been signed accordingly. If I may check, Honorable Lotre, whether you can acknowledge that the signature on the form is yours.
Honourable Speaker, I confirm the signature on the form is mine.
It's
Thank you
such.
very much. We
Such
have got
legalese,
two
man.
candidates for
No,
now.
that's
Are
Parliament.
there any
Listen here.
nominations from the floor? There are
Listen to
no
the EFF
nominations.
start getting angry.
I don't see any hand.
No nomination from
Thank
the
you
ANC.
very much.
Oh, wow.
Given that we have two candidates, a secret ballot will take place in terms of item 6
Just wait.
of Part A of Schedule 3 to the Constitution. Order, honorable members. I now suspend proceedings to allow the returning officers to prepare ballot papers. We shall resume proceedings when the bells are rung.
The madam is in charge.
Thank you very much, honorable members. The returning officers will now take the responsibility.
Where the fuck did that come from?
Bafunda kuni. Umthengisi.
They're singing Mali Bongwe.
Taste your own medicine.
Taste your own medicine.
We are coming for
What the
everything.
We're coming for everything. What? Is this the EFF?
This is the EFF right here. They're the ones making these comments. So their mics are available at the moment, but from this point onwards, throughout the whole of Parliament, unless the speaker was speaking, all mics were muted.
You must be ashamed. Shame. You must be very much ashamed.
Very
Of
much a shame.
yourself.
So this guy here, you see him, he's walking over. He's like, hey, turn it off, and there we go. He's basically telling her to shut up, and you see she puts her hands up, she keeps going, and she realizes, the mics are off.
The mics are off. I cannot be heard anymore. Oh no.
Oh my. Yeah, so basically what's going on here is the EFF are chastising ANC because they can see the politics at play. And basically they can see, well, obviously the ANC are going to vote for the DA nominee. And it's kind of like and that's why the whole, Medem is in charge, that whole thing going on. Yeah, that's why. And as a thing, now they're even singing it, Medem. Basically, it's a term for like the white lady who runs the house.
Yeah,
she's the Medem.
So this is when we were talking about the EFF at the end of our last video. This is what they do.
This is what they do. But you know what? This is honestly rather tame for what they've done previously. Like some of their members trying to rush the president while he's giving a speech at Parliament and having the fucking police come down and throw them all out of Parliament. Like that shit was
wild,
insane.
Dude. That was
We've had wild times. We've had wild times. Now, you'll see that's the EFF seating. In front of us is a bit of the PA and some other smaller parties. The DA are all the way on the other side. But in between the DA, all the way at the back, if you see all the way at the back there where the front back where the podium is, all those people at the back there, that's the DA seating. But in between them and all these standing EFF members is a bunch of empty seats. Who do you think was supposed to sit there?
What, you're saying like over here and stuff?
No, on the other side. Between
on
them.
the other side of them. Oh yeah, it's a little bit difficult to see in this video.
You can't see because they're standing. But when they sit down, you'll see it's empty as fuck on that side, on that middle section.
Who was that? That was MK?
That was supposed to be MK.
I still find it
in our last video,
MK didn't show up.
Yeah, they didn't show up, but you know what? It fucked them in the end. Because all this playing hard ball, all the crazy demands that they had, it amounted to nothing. Because remember when we first started that last video, we were like, look at what happened in KZN. They literally flipped KZN.
Yeah, they had power. They had real power.
But they could have had real power, but they simply didn't show up to the negotiations. And the ANC and the GNU people, they were all like, hey, listen, the doors are open. You're welcome to come at any point, And they just never showed up. So not only did it fuck them over here in the building of a national government, but it also screwed them over in KZN, where they were supposed to, take control. They won 45% of the vote. It only stands to reason that as the majority party, or the plurality majority party, that they should form the government, right? Well, the entire KZN legislative government has been formed without them because they never showed up. They didn't even show up to their own regional, provincial elections. Yeah,
so now the government that is in charge in KZN is a coalition of ANC, DA, and
IFP, and a few smaller parties. And oh god, dude, I wish I could find it. There was this one Twitter post that showed all of the positions. Oh, here it is. Okay, I found it. Let's see here. If it could just give me.
I still find it wild that they boycotted. It.
Yeah.
I know that they were calling for a. They were calling for a cancellation of the National Assembly or something.
Yes, they were.
And the Supreme Court just threw them out instantly. Essentially.
And at the end of the day, I don't have. It's just a picture of the cabinet, but it's not a post of all their positions. But basically, all the positions. There's not a single MK person who's in leadership at all.
Send it to me.
Okay. Well, here's a picture of the people, but it's not.
Oh, it's the
who they are.
Themselves.
It's just a picture. It's
view. Okay.
But I'm trying to just find the post. There was a really cool post that showed it all. But yeah, basically, and here's another interesting part: the newly appointed DA MEC of Finance for KZN.
Oh, really?
The DA took the financial position, bro, because they actually were able to take what could have been a political loss and just simply treated them as a non-entity because they themselves behaved as a political non-entity.
Well, yeah, they suspended their vote, and through inaction, you're choosing
to lose. They chose to lose. And the sad thing is, all the people who voted for them, they won't ever know this, but the MK completely fucked them entirely. They have zero representation in parliament simply because of the fact that the party they voted for refused to even show up to the negotiation table. And this to me,
I don't even think they those people who did vote for them would know.
Oh, honestly, at the end of the day, that is true. And I'd still love to know how the MK was able to mobilize so many people to vote for them in KZN. But I mean, that in and of itself was a crazy feat, and yet they took they snatched defeat from the claws of victory. They literally did. Here we are. And I want to say something about Cyril Ramaphosa specifically. A lot of people talk about him being an ineffective president, this, that, and the other. But I have to take my hat off to the guy for being able to sit down and negotiate with his chief political rivals to form a national government. Like, this is not something you see a lot happening in like regular parliamentary coalitions. Like if you look at European parliamentary coalitions, they're usually with blocks. It is a clusterfuck of a bunch of blocks, but they're usually blocks who are like in some ways kind of ideologically, aligned. Like you'll find like most right-wing blocks will vote together and form like a coalition or whatever the case may be. Yeah. But in this case, we're looking at two diametrically opposed parties coming together and basically forming a government. Now, the thing is, people are going to remember this. It's not like they're sharing power here. The DA are coming in as junior members to this partnership at the end of the day. So while they might have a lot of say in maybe domestic things, I seriously doubt that the GNU will change its foreign policy positions on much. I think a lot of that will still be dictated by the ANC.
You think? I
don't think
ANC will still dictate the foreign policy of.
I don't think like we're going to flip-flop on our Israel position, or we're going to flip-flop on our Ukraine position, or any of that. I think we're still going to be pretty much where we are. And while some people might have said that South Africa, stuck its neck out going to the ICJ, it really didn't, because after that happened, a lot of European countries also came out and supported that motion. Like Spain and Ireland and Slovenia, Slovakia and Finland. I might be incorrect about Finland, but there were quite a few countries that came out in support of that position. So it wasn't like South Africa stood up there and just made an absolute mockery of themselves. They kind of did go out and put themselves on an international stage.
To be fair, yes.
All eyes on them.
But the initial evidence that was brought forward was very.
Oh yeah, no. As
a South African, that was very embarrassing to watch.
Yes.
But
I would say.
Still, that's just the evidence provided. The motion itself, fine.
The motion itself, and it wasn't a political blunder, as I might have believed at the time, as much as I thought it was. It actually turned out to have really no massive effect on South Africa's global standing with the rest of the world. And we still continue to keep up our trade relations, and now considering now with our new government coming together, we might even have a better chance of restabilizing some of those relationships with other countries and other partners as well. A less cooled partnership with the United States, for one, is a good thing.
Well, we'll see how that goes.
We'll see how that goes, but that's an airy-fairy foreign policy thing. The big thing that we have to take away from this is that while the government of national unity, to me, is a very, very positive thing for South Africa, a very positive approach to how we view our constitution. And also, we stood as kind of like an example to some of the other bullshit that's going on in the rest of the world, like especially Western countries with election denial and all that sort of crap. The ANC could have easily just said, fuck these elections, fuck this shit, we're just going to go ahead and do anything. But you know what? The ANC took it on the chin. They said, well, this is a defeat. We accept the results of the people. We're going to change our stances on a whole bunch of things. We're going to go into government with, like, you know, people who are ideologically opposed to us on so many issues. Like, so many things that could have gone wrong, that could have happened in like a fucking despot state, didn't happen here. Because our checks and balances stand strong.
Yeah.
And our constitution does too.
Even just the ability for, as you said earlier, for Cyril to like put differences aside and be like, yeah, let's go. We're going into coalition with the DA and IFP. I guess the IFP is less of a crazy one, but coalition.
No, but they are
with the
pretty
DA,
conservative.
Like, that is a massive win. No matter which way it goes, it's not going to change any foreign policy stuff. Like I think we said in the last video, it could, but it's probably not. But it's just halting South Africa's careering off into the abyss. It's just stopping that, and now we can start turning around.
I agree. And, you know, I remember maybe a good old month ago when I was talking about this the first time around, I was really worried about the outcomes of this election. Like, I was fucking panicking because I thought things were going to go awry. And the one thing I thought would never happen, which I thought was a meme to happen, was a coalition between these two parties. And lo and behold, look what happened. We literally just witnessed a DA member elected as the deputy, well, we watched the nomination, but she was elected as the deputy speaker, and it went out without a hitch, and she was welcomed with cheers and applause from both the DA and the ANC. And that is something I would not have predicted I would have seen at all.
It's huge, not only symbolically, but also just for the way the country's going, or can potentially go.
And the message that it sends is of, you know, despite our differences, we can all work together, which is great. But I also think, and maybe I'm entering into conspiracy zone here, but this is just my thoughts on Cyril's positioning. I think Cyril has always been a very pragmatic person, like Mbeki before him. And he obviously inherited a lot of the dregs from the previous administration, which was Jacob Zuma's administration. He had to inherit ministers. He had to inherit a lot of a fully run ANC government, and I think a lot of the time his hands were tied. And he looked at this election outcome. He looked at the outcome of what would happen with the MK being a factor. And I think he, like a lot of other people in the country, understood to be a good thing, was that the ANC needed to dip below 50%. The ANC needed to enter into some kind of coalition with another form of body for it to
force its hand.
Force its hand and to cast out those elements that are making it difficult for it to move forward. So what is left of the ANC today? Well, it's the pro-business ANC members with a few, you know, hecklers on the side, into coalition with another pro-business party where they can sort of work together to achieve more of the free market aims that a lot of the top ANC people want, but secretly can't say they want. You know what I mean?
I don't know if you can say that prescription, though.
No, not all of them. I mean, a lot of them. Not a majority.
Okay,
but
well,
at
if you're
least
saying
half.
if you're saying a lot of them, that's a majority. If it's above 50%, it's a majority.
I would say it's a majority now that the ANC has been culled quite a bit, because they get to choose who they put in those positions, even though there's less of them. So that means it's essentially the kind of issue that Labour's going to run into in the UK. They're gonna win a huge majority, okay, and they're going to have so many parliamentary seats, but that's also going to represent a huge diversity of opinions, and there's going to be sections of Labour that might, decide not to vote in certain things. It's going to be harder to whip a party when there's more in the party. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when it's it doesn't need to pull together.
Yeah, and Labour are going to have to fight for the centre as much as they can in the UK to keep whatever majority that they want. And for South Africa, it's kind of like the ANC needs to kind of, kill off all of the extra flab that has been dragging it down for way too long. And in losing a third of its MPs in a single election, I think that is a good start in doing that.
Yeah.
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 Which MPs do you think maintain their positions? The more radical ones or the more moderate pro-business ones? To even think about forming a government like this, to even think of voting 274 votes for a DA fucking deputy speaker. So there is definitely the party is definitely whipped on the ANC side, and the party is definitely whipped on the DA side in union with each other. And they just need to maintain that and make progress, because this could harm either of them quite badly at the end of the day. If the DA come out of this appearing ineffective,
then
what's to say that they splinter
really
off?
Bad. Yeah. This is the DA's time to shine, because they've always been
it's do or die.
Peripheries. If
criticizing
they don't
government,
do anything, then and show that they are just as ineffective, I hesitate to try think what will happen after that.
Exactly. And so it's all very well and good to be proud of what's happened. And yes, we should be. But the stakes are high. They're very high. And we have 5 years to turn this fucking ship around. Obviously, the first initial signs of it are happening. A lot of people predicted that load shedding would come back at least within a week after the elections. It still hasn't come back. Things are generally getting better. They also discovered new ways to implement load shedding through what is now referred to as load reduction. Whereas before, where they couldn't do this, now they're able to target key areas that use a lot of energy and specifically focus load shedding on those areas instead of just every residential area block by block. Yeah. So there's now new ways for them to institute load shedding, which doesn't affect most residential areas, and will go after high level areas for some industries will have to run on generators more than just constantly pulling from the grid. And so there'll be the same sort of So they've instituted that here in Gauteng. I don't know about the rest of the province. We haven't experienced load reduction here because we're living in a very low use area. So it's likely the fact that if load shedding doesn't come back, we're good. We're good.
Yeah,
we solved that problem.
The ship starts to right size.
The shit stops to right size, and that is happening right now. We're seeing some of that happening. Not that it has anything to do with the new government coming in. Of course, you can say maybe the RAND strengthening had something to do with that. But when it comes to load shedding getting better, it just happens to be that this government, or this new government, is going to inherit the uptick of the maintenance of our energy grid, which is a very good start. It's about building on. Absolutely. Their key thing now is to fucking halve unemployment, bro. We need to do something drastic about unemployment. Well, I think that if this country could do that,
of the DA and ANC would, of the two possible coalitions that existed, this is the best one that can. But
I believe so.
I do agree with you that for the DA to seem effective, they have to push hard on the business side. They
Yes,
have
they do.
to reduce unemployment. They have to get in
They
win
have to
the
cut it
hearts
down
and
proper.
minds of the youth, effectively, of people who are disenfranchised due to the high
Yeah.
unemployment rate. And then
Absolutely.
that, if they are able to get that traction, get that investment, get those jobs coming back,
In the next 5 years.
then they will be able to go into the next election with their
heads held high.
held high,
Yeah.
yeah, and with a good rep. Their heads
Exactly.
held high and with a good rep, and then it'll go well. If they don't, and it's a clusterfuck, it's a continued clusterfuck. Like the bets are all off again, and it'll be a repeat of this election. Where
And who knows what will come out of
exactly,
that, you know?
who knows what will come out of that?
Who knows what kind of unified left-wing bloc? Because, yes, the MK are licking their wounds after a stonking fucking victory, if you can believe the statement in any way, and have come out the biggest losers of this entire fucking election, even though they were the biggest winners
They
initially.
were 100% the dark horse that came out of fucking nowhere.
And then went straight back into nowhere. But
Yeah.
who's to say that they aren't going to come back out of this? And let's say they're going to sit on the sidelines and they're going to criticize, and they're going to watch, and they're going to wait, and they're going to see that if something fucks up, if there's any failure, they're going to bide their time, and in 5 years' time, there could be like an MK-EFF alliance coming together, strong enough to push out a weakened GNU and ANC and DA, because they went into government with each other and couldn't enact anything. Like, it's possible that could happen, and that's scary.
It could. That would, however, require them to go from a 25% as a coalition to a major
45%. Yeah.
45%. So that
Something
is
like that.
like half of the ANC has left and gone to MK and EFF. And then
That is the nightmare scenario right there.
I don't think that'll happen though, because keep in mind MK is a Zulu party.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
to
true
be
tribal
fair,
for their own good.
They are too tribal for their own good. You have your other tribes of your other African tribes who don't trust fucking Zulus for very good reason.
A very good historical reason. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
I
that
don't
aside, yeah.
think that will ever happen. What I think may happen is like the ANC fragments or something, and then has a more left fragment, and that becomes like another coalition. But we've entered a new era in South African politics,
A brand new area. Well,
which is a coalition era, which was what our constitution was actually made for. We finally entered the way
the next stage of our
stage,
democracy, yeah.
which is what it was meant to become.
It's a beautiful thing, because now we have accountability in a much stronger degree, but also forgot what I was going to say. Completely mind blank right there. God damn! I was cooking. I was cooking something, bro.
Evidently cooking your brain, bro.
And then it just cooked right out of there. I fucking burnt the dish, bro.
Yeah, fucking overcooked.
Yeah.
But I mean, all in all, it's a good thing. The coalition that we wanted has taken place. The DA now can drive a more free capitalist agenda. I know those are very loaded words
From the inside, you know,
that people don't like, but like, yeah, can hopefully drive the country in a less radical socialist way. I mean, what do you think on the bill that was passed by Cyril just before the elections for the
Oh, the NHI.
NHI bill.
I thought that was a very. I'm still trying to figure out how that all played into this.
Yeah, I've no idea.
Because that was a
how
pretty
it'll play.
radical bill, you know?
Yeah, but that's been passed. That can't be stopped now, can it?
Yeah. So I can only imagine that with that going into play, it would just be effectively more of a strengthening of the institutions we already have, or the healthcare facilities we already have, with less of a push towards a single player system. I think we're gonna have we're gonna keep using the mantra of the NHI, but we're gonna safeguard a multi-payer system.
Yeah. I think it will be refactored.
I think it's so easy to offer that. I think it's not the worst case scenario where we have two really opposing things. I think you can compromise quite a bit on this.
Yeah.
You can do something similar to like Obamacare, obviously with more stringent mandates in place. I think it's really cool to have a national healthcare granted to you with your ability to opt out at a fee. You know what I mean? So you pay a fee, you opt out of it, and you go to your private healthcare. I think that's a fair system. And then, you know, you get rebated for that, and you can just get a tax write-off for that. It's fair enough. So all parties win. But at the same time, I think you kind of need, on a more like pragmatic social stand, or like more socialist look at it, is that in order to, you know, get the system better, you need to have more people invested in it, right? And if you have a multi-payer system, those who can afford it will not invest in the system that you want people to buy into. Yeah. So essentially, yeah, it sounds terrible, but you have to get things to be bad to get better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that is an argument for why you want to go down there. Why, well, people who
the single payer system,
NHI, that's why you go down the single payer system route. I mean, just the adding. I mean, this is adding tax, but adding a sort of system like in the UK, where everyone pays national health insurance as part of your paycheck, and you get access to it. And then if you want to have private healthcare, fucking go for it. You have to pay for it, but go for it.
You still have to pay for it, but you're still paying towards the NHS.
You're still paying towards the NHS. Yeah.
So I think maybe taking out the mandate to opt out is good. You cannot opt out of the NHI. Everyone has to pay into it. It's like a dole, right? You all have to pay into it. Yeah. But you have the option to pay extra for private healthcare if you so wish. I think that's fair.
The people who go for private healthcare probably won't. Well, they will bitch about the increased
rebate, as they did with Obamacare's mandate. Yeah,
but in truth, it won't really affect them that much.
No, it really won't, and it's like paying towards UIF, but it'll be far less of a percentage. I think. Well, I'll probably be around the same percentage. Like, what is your UIF? Like a very tiny portion of your salary. Yeah. It's barely even recognizable. But it's still a dole that you're paying towards.
If anyone has gotten this far in the video, first of all, like, subscribe, because how the fuck did you get here? Secondly,
exactly.
Secondly, we love you. And
we appreciate you.
We appreciate you.
And if you're coming in from the last video, we appreciate you even more.
Even more. But like, yeah, comment on like, what do you think? How would that be implemented, and what do you think about implementing either like an NHS type tax system, or like, what the fuck?
I would have to read more about this. I really don't know enough about, you know, healthcare systems or how they work in individual countries, or the different types of mandates, or multiplayer versus single player. Like, my understanding of this stuff is very rudimentary, so I wouldn't even know where to start implementing it. But I honestly believe the systems that they have in Europe, like you have in the UK, like they have in France, I think these are really decent systems to work towards. The problem we have in South Africa is the infrastructure. It's not there. In the UK, they rebuilt the entire country after World War II, and they basically focused a lot. That's where the NHS came from. You know, a lot of it was government paying towards helping people out, and you know, it's kind of like part of their national identity.
Yeah.
Whereas in America, it's very difficult to institute something like that because it was never forced to be. You know, NHS is a product of like necessity during World War II.
But then again, as part of our African
Commonwealth.
Yeah, Commonwealth. Like just the African people are a lot more socialist. In their stance. Well, just the ANC is a lot more socialist. Not
well,
EFF,
the ANC is a lot more left wing.
Socialist.
Not the EFF is. I would say the EFF are full blown socialists.
Yes.
Okay.
Left
I wouldn't
wing.
call the ANC socialist.
So I'm using socialist as left wing.
Well, in the UK, it probably has a bit more of a. It's a more safer term. It's not as controversial of a term as it is in South Africa. Because like terms like communism and socialism get thrown around so much here, just like it is in America. But I feel like if you use that term, like the Labour Party has a lot of socialist like ideals, right? But would you say that you know, the Labour Party, even under Corbyn, were terribly extreme left wing, like EFF level?
No, definitely.
No, they never were. Like Corbyn was like, even like UK people thought Corbyn was like this insane socialist guy, and yes, he was a socialist. But he's more like a Bernie Sanders type of socialist. You know, when I think of a socialist, I think of someone like fucking Che Guevara or literally Julius Malema or like people who literally are asking for like nationalization in their policies of certain things. Yeah. Like we want to take control of private citizens away and make a government. Now that is socialism.
Nationalization.
Not like, not like a healthcare system that's this whole new thing. Like if you were to nationalize healthcare, as in fully nationalize it, that's socialism. But the NHS, it isn't that. The NHS it's a welfare system. It's part of like a more not democratic socialist, but social democrat sort of policy. I might be rambling a bit here, but you get what I mean, right? Like there's different there's different understandings of what a socialist is.
Yeah, depending on where you are.
In different places. Yeah.
But
yeah,
we digress. I mean, all in all, it's the whole ratification was a meme, and it's a good thing, honestly. That Cyril was able to hold on to the ANC,
the presidency as well.
Yeah,
and
the presidency, and they've
full whip behind him.
We've gone into coalition with the DA. Plus IFP and the like, and this might actually turn South Africa around.
Yeah, it has all the makings to it, and it has all the potential to. It is a shining beacon for us to see more moderate reforms once again. Like instead of like every time where we were faced with an opportunity to go completely radical, our country had, in the face of all kinds of turmoil, always chose the moderate option. We have our constitution to thank for that. We have the father of our constitution, Nelson Mandela, to thank for that. And a lot of good people in power that actually know what they're doing. Like, including, believe it or not, our president.
Yeah.
I honestly think he's a very pragmatic person. And I think he was only ineffective in his first term because he had much of his, much of what he wanted to do kind of tied behind him by a lot of ANC stalwarts who are hangovers from Zuma's regime.
I think that's what hindered him a lot. And maybe, actually, do you think that him passing the NHI was to try and appease them in the final moments?
That's what it looked like, at least, you know.
Yeah. Just to like get a couple of them on his side so that he could hold on to the ANC after the election.
Just enough, yeah.
Just enough.
I watched an interesting interview on Biz Community from I think it's the chief political writer for the Financial Times, and he was one of the first people in a very long time, like one of the first journalists to actually sit down with Cyril Ramaphosa, because Cyril Ramaphosa famously doesn't have like on the record interviews with journalists,
No.
and you know, fair enough. Neither Jay-Z. But he had an off-the-record interview with this guy, and he basically said that while he was there, Cyril seemed very chill. Like, everyone in the world was like, oh my god, what is South Africa going to do? Like, this seems like one of the most, like, a nightmare situation.
Yeah,
like, how are they going to form a government, you know? And he seemed very, like, sure of this. He seemed very chill about the prospect. You know, one of the questions the guy asked him was, well, you know, it's Saturday now. You're going to have your first sitting of Parliament on Friday next week. And it looks like, and it seems like everything's up in the air. Are you not worried? He's like, no, we'll have everything sorted out by then. And true as God, they did.
Yeah.
Parliament went off without a hitch. They elected all their people. And now the next maze to cross is who gets what ministerial post, you know.
And
that
who
is
gets
the
what posts within the national.
yeah, within the national the cabinet at least. Yeah.
Cabinet.
So that's going on at the moment. They're all having their that's the new big thing. So we don't really know who's going to be minister of what yet.
And I don't even have the knowledge to try and predict on who those ministers would be. So.
No, I didn't even know who half these people were before they were elected. Like, I knew who Toko Didiza was because she'd been a deputy speaker and she had been speaker before. But I had no idea who the DA was going to foot. And I honestly thought they were going to foot fucking John Steenhuisen himself. But it looks like they're going to put him into a chief position where it comes to service delivery. So the DA are going to be involved in a lot of infrastructure stuff. So those ministerial positions like agriculture, education. I don't know about finance. That's a big one.
If they can get finance.
But if the DA that would be a very golden position for them. Yeah. But fuck, being able to get into any ministerial cabinet position is a big win for them. And despite being the biggest losers of the election, the ANC managed to pull a huge win out of this.
Yeah, they've been able to hold on to their regime, for lack of a better word. But what would the phrase be? The bells are tolling.
Yeah,
the
quite
time,
literally.
The time for the rampant corruption in South Africa, I like to think, as a
is
hopeful
over.
individual,
Well, it's gonna die.
Is like coming to an end. So we'll see how we go.